Welcome back, everybody, to another weekly update. As because it's a weekly update, Matt's not here once again. So let's get into it. The drill, standard wrestling, football, and for those who care, what's happening on the update of me leaving, becoming a passport bro. Let's jump right into last night Survivor Series War Games. It's pretty bad. I want to do my own versions instead of trying to do a William Regal version. War Games. Yeah. Anyway, so let's go right into it. First matchup was the women's War Games. Team Bel Air versus Team Damage Control. I didn't really see much because I ordered pizza and I had to go get it. So I didn't really. I caught the tail end of that right around the time. Who entered? Huh. I don't remember. Point is, I caught the tail end of that. I think I saw the last where Lynch came in and then it started officially started. That match was, pretty decent. For the most part. I'm surprised, it wouldn't be a women's war game match without, Io, jumping off the top of the cage. You know, kind of figured Damage Control would have the advantage considering both Io and Rhea have experience in it, but I guess considering the type of momentum going into the match with the surprise Becky Lynch, it was not surprising that Team Bel Air was going to win. Uh, the next match was Finn versus AJ. Yeah, Finn versus AJ. Uh, it was good. Um, I wouldn't say it was good as. I mean, it was as good as it could have been. No, not could have been. What should I say? It's as good as it. How do I? Can't really word it because I was gonna say it's good. Not as good as Finn versus Edge, but that was more of an I Quit match, and so there was more to it than what this is was versus AJ and Finn. So hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. Singles match, singles competitors match with no type of stipulation. Uh, I'm very surprised. Not really surprising. I figured Rhea and Mia would be out there, but they just got done with the match, so I wouldn't expect them to be out there. Because they had Mia Yim, the reason why to be that equalized to Rhea, but that kind of seemed went downhill. Not really downhill fast, but it's like they kind of scrapped that considering those two entered the War Games match. So moving forward, what does that mean as far as the OC versus the Judgment Day? I don't know. Um, Maybe we'll get the Mia Yim versus Rhea tomorrow or not. Uh, yeah, we'll find out. Uh, then we get to the women's SmackDown match: Shotzi versus Ronda. Um, my God, I'm glad that was in the middle of the event because every pay per view has to have that low moment, and this just happens to be it because Ronda is not that great. I don't. They really need to find somebody to take that belt off for her, and then don't re-sign her or put her in. a part-time role. Probably not even that. Shotzi did her best trying to save the match as far as excitement, but you know, Ronda is just not good. Honestly, hopefully Shayna will, you know, do a face turn and then turn on her and then take the belt from her, or Charlotte comes back and takes the belt from her, or whomever. But yeah, that match was horrible. I don't know the three people that was sitting in front row. I don't know who they were. They had to have been part of the act of being taken out. If they weren't, that's something. They had to been. They had to be. But anyway, next up was the triple threat match for the U.S. title. It was good. It was very good. Very surprising about the ending. Going very surprised they gave Austin Theory the win. You know, uh, yeah, very surprised. It's like, well, you failed on the cash in, but we're gonna get you on the back end for this triple threat. Uh, the ending was unexpected. Uh, but it made sense. But now what? Is this time? Do we get Ali versus Theory, or Bobby versus Theory, Seth versus Theory? You know, it's up in the air. It's very up in the air as far as what's going down moving forward. And then we get to the main event. You know, Bloodline versus Brawling Brutes plus Drew and KO. Uh, yeah, it was good. Obviously, it was the highlight of the night. Um, of course, very surprising, but also not surprising. Everybody was wondering what Sammy's gonna do, and he did what happened. He went, you know, he went low on KO, and then Jay finished him off with a splash. So, and then Bloodline wins, and so now Sammy is officially Sammy Uso instead of being the honorary Us, so to speak. And so, moving forward, what does that mean? What does this entail? Because the next pay per view event is in 2 months, literally. Royal Rumble is end of January. There's no day one, so now you gotta wonder what's this 2 month storyline build up is gonna be, because that's a long that's a lot of episodes of story building to this, and you hate to have a rematch at whatever elimination chamber. Yeah, February. So you got to wonder who's going to turn on who in this bloodline, because originally I think they stated Sammy was gonna be, betray turn on him, join KO, and then those two is gonna take the belts off of the Usos, and then I think that would signal, Reigns' downfall of the bloodline. Come WrestleMania. But at this point, we don't know when that's gonna happen. Um, but like I said, moving forward, you have 2 months of build up. Who's gonna be next to face Reigns? At da, 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 Royal Rumble. Um, could be Sheamus. I don't know who Yeah, it could be Sheamus. Uh, could be Kevin Owens once again, not the Royal Rumble. Don't know. Don't know. Really don't know. Uh, but early predictions as of right now. Who's gonna win the Rumble? As far as the women's go, like I said, it's probably Bailey. Considering Banks hasn't come back yet. If if she does come back, it's between her and Bailey, because I think Bailey's next. I don't see, especially this early, because who won last year? Um, yeah, yeah. I'm like, it's got to be Bailey, and then if Bailey wins, I think she has to go after SmackDown, because there's no possible way we're gonna get. I There shouldn't be a Bailey versus uh Belair. What would it be? Number 4, 5 maybe, I think, in singles, 4 or 5. So she has to go back to SmackDown just to take whomever holds that belt. Uh, it could be Rhea. Maybe they'll give her another push to get that Raw belt back. Um, who knows? As far as the men's side goes, you know, it, maybe it should be The Rock. Well, it was supposed to be The Rock last year, but that changed because it was supposed to be Lesnar who wins this year, or the coming SmackDown or Rumble versus last one. But yeah, it should be The Rock. Uh, it could be Orton that comes back, but I said he still, I guess, still injured or more or something like that. I didn't really watch Wrestle Talk yet, explaining what's going on. Um, I think they said it's kind of still too early for Cody to get a championship run, title shot. So, as far as here and now, who would win? Um, could be Seth. I mean, at the same time, not really. Uh, I mean, quite frankly, if you really want to solidify Reigns, I think he should have lost, you know, SummerSlam around and then come back at, Rumble, win it, 2-time winner, go to WrestleMania, wins that, the Undisputed, um, and then, gives it up, you know, you know. So I think that would. I know that sounds a little crazy, but it, to me, it sounds more you know, to solidify than just having him like, for 3, 2, or I don't know how many days it is now, but you get my point. But because he only won it once, despite being in Final Four for how many times? Let's see, 2000, 2000, I think 3 times, 3, 4 times he was in the Final Four. Yeah, because let's see, 2014 he was in Final Four, 115. 2017, or because Shinsuke eliminated him in 2018. So three, one, two, yeah, 4. Yeah, Final Four 4 times. But yeah, like I said, here and now, who would win if it's not The Rock? Uh, Bobby, you know, Bobby, Orton. I mean, if Orton was coming back, I would say he should win. That way, he's tied with um, Stone, Austin. Um, you know, maybe Big E would come back. That would be something to see him come back, win the title or win the Rumble, and then go on to um, main event WrestleMania, just like Kofi. But like I said, here and now, I think the only viable option as of right now would be KO or Bobby. Uh, you know, um, if you want to solidify, a future Hall of Famer, it would be Seth Rollins to win number two. But, uh, but yeah, that's moving forward. We'll, like I said, we'll see in the coming weeks. I think they should definitely had a TLC, bring that back, or should have kept on with day one. But I think they should. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. Vikings talk. So the little beatdown we had against Cowboys was kind of an eye opener as far as our defense. Well, that and Patriots, but as far as Dallas goes, it's really an eye opener. We knew going into that match that their defense was pretty good. No, I should say pretty good. They're pretty fucking great. Um, right out the gate, strip sack, and then gave him short yardage right then and there. Uh, right then and there, I mean, we did help hold them to 3 points, and then we kind of marched down the field, and that should have been a touchdown twice over on TJ, but 3 points. Hey, it's tie game, and then all of a sudden here comes Tony Pollard, just just cooking up the defense. I think we were down to our third string corner, or maybe second or third. Point was Pollard just torch, you know, just running through empty spaces and just torched it. I kind of stopped watching as soon as Pollard, uh, it was third quarter, 12 minutes left. Dak to Pollard ran it for a touchdown. I stopped watching. It's like, well, there's no way coming back despite, Kirk comes back. But, I mean, we barely saw Jefferson as it is. I mean, if it was, 27-14, maybe I would have stuck around to see what happened. But no, I turned it off. Come to find out, the game was over 40-3, which was bogus. And then that's 3 times, three in a row. Dallas came up here and just straight up owned us. That's three different quarterbacks. Yeah, hopefully next year Dallas won't come back up here again, but you never know because if they finish first and we finish first in our division, we're gonna meet again. That's how the schedule works. We faced the first, the previous. We faced since we're first. We faced the first of previous division, which is current right now of the NFC East. Um, that's if they finish first. If they don't, we will face the Eagles next year, and yeah, and we would face uh, who would we face next year if it ended today? Would it be the South? right? Or West. No, it'd be the West, I believe. So, the 49ers, I think. Yeah. Anyway, the Patriots game, it was good. A little back and forth, only because once again, our defense is pretty bad. We made Jones look pretty fucking good. Throwing for 300 yards, or was it 400? I believe. Uh, yeah, we need to work on that defense if you definitely want to make a big push in the playoffs. And as of right now, fucking Jets are cooking you know, the Bears, which is insane in itself right now. Wait, let me refresh this page to see what's going on. Uh, yeah, it's still cooking them. You know, um, I guess good on Jets for taking out uh, Zach Wilson. I don't know who they replaced him with, but point is, it changed. It definitely changed the landscape of things like that. But as far as the playoffs go, we're still in the second seed, uh, right behind the Eagles. Mm, do they? Oh, they play later tonight. So unless, well, they'll still be first, despite us having a win. They have a win over us, but still, we're second seed. If the playoffs end today, we would face the Seahawks. Not bad. Um, I mean, if we beat them, the Cowboys would face the Buccaneers. Yeah, I really don't see Tampa winning, but you never know with Tom Brady in the playoffs. You never know. Or wait, yeah, um, yeah, we would face Seahawks. Giants would face 49ers. Yeah, and so they would beat them. We would face um, the lowest seeded person, right? Because Eagles will face the lowest. Yeah, Eagles will face the lowest seed, and we'll face the highest seed. So if we beat the Seahawks and the Eagles, or yeah, the 49ers will face the Giants. So so either we would face the 49ers, or yeah, it would be the Cowboys. Shit. Damn. Yeah, so let's hope the Buccaneers win, somehow pull off a miracle victory against the Cowboys, and we'll face the Buccaneers. Will have to come up to us. I can see us beating the Buccaneers. Uh, I could, I don't know if you know Eagles beating 49ers, and then it'll be probably 49ers versus us. Um, but if somebody in that divisional round, Eagles would lose, that means we'll get an NFC championship here, which would be nice. It would be nice to see that happen. If that happens, definitely would have to save up money for that, depending on who we're playing. Um, if Dallas would come back up here, I don't know if I want to pay money to see that match. Although I didn't see it before, I'm glad I didn't waste that money. But at the same time, since it's the playoffs, the prices would go up, and since it is Dallas, it'll probably go up a little bit more because it's Dallas. But anybody else, I'll probably wait. Unless it's the NFC Championship, then I would pay that. I would. But that being said, um, um, what else? 'Cause I think that's about it. I usually talk about and everything like that. Um, so, uh, moving on. For those who care, um, so it's been 17 days since I've received a letter from Rose. Um, nothing going on. I haven't sent anything. She hasn't sent anything to me. You know, days going by. So far, it's not zero that I'm not going, or I would be going. It's not zero. It's not a zero, but as days go on, it's the chance of me going does lower. So at this, because I think I'm gonna wait until you know one more week, the first, and send her a letter and say, hey, haven't heard from you. Is everything blah blah blah? What's happening? I hate to put you in a position where you have to choose, between it's me or your grandmother. Do you want, do you want a life live over here with me, possible future husband? You know, if you want that, you have to move now. You have to meet me back over here. I'm not gonna say not like that. Uh, you know, but at the same time, it does. I have to put in a letter say, hey, you have to, make it make sense because it's been 3 weeks. You left Cebu to go to Manila to take care of your grandmother who had a stroke, and depending on how severity of the stroke, I looked it up. It's like, well, depending on stroke, I mean, you could with you can make a recovery, and like I said, depending on the severity of it. Um, Still, you know, make it make sense because you left for Manila 3 weeks ago. So did you quit your job? Did you, you know, what about the place where you live in? Because if you do that here, like I said, I think I said this last time. If you do that here, I'm like, sure, you get emergency leave, from your job, but eventually that's gonna run out. You know, if once that runs out, do you take, do you use your vacation time to extend that? And then once that runs out, you know, you have to come back, because one, this is where you live, this is where your stuff is, you know, um, you know, but you guys get my point. So at that point, I'm like, make it make sense, because you can't. It's been 3 weeks. There's no way that I like. It's like I could probably hear you guys saying, "Well, you got played and everything." Well, I didn't really pay her. I'm paying the agency, and it's like, to send the letters, and then, well, what if they're giving her money because of all the letters you said? Well, I mean, if that's the case, when she, kept going with the letters and everything, and like the only logical thing I can think of is it gets capped out. It's like that's per person and everything like that. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, but I don't want to think of that. But it is in my mind. Um, it's capped out per person and everything like that. That's the case. I'm like, holy shit, my mom was right. This whole place is, this whole agency is ridiculous. It's like, it's kind of how do you stay in business for this amount of decades and nobody, you know, called you out on it, you know? Although they say, you know, don't be a letter Romeo, just come over here and then meet him in person. You know, that's because I tried to tell my mom like I don't see how this is a scam because they operate in so many other countries. I don't see how they employ this amount of people. You know, it makes no sense. You know, like I said, make it make sense. Um, but still, I mean, I'll send her. You know, I'll wait. I'll give her another week. Send that letter out. Say, hey, what's going on? What's the update? Because you know, like where do you, you don't have to give me full details. You know, where do you live? But I mean, what is your living situation in a sense? It's like, are you living with roommates, or do you pay your own rent, something like that? Uh, you know, it's just like I said, make it make sense for me to sit around here and wait for okay, my grandma's doing fine. I can now meet you and everything like that and stuff like that. But I mean, if it turns around, it's like, you know, if it if it doesn't, make sense, it's like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna work because now I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs, waiting and waiting and waiting because I'm like, like I said, sure, having a stroke takes years off your life, but you know, you can't just sit there. All right, cool. You want to take care of your grandmother, but by the time she passes, I'm long and gone, and what have you. It's like, okay, sure, sure, that's a normal sacrifice. Putting your, yeah, see, now I'm saying out loud, it does make me kind of seem like an asshole, but I think you guys hopefully know what I'm trying to relay. You know, not like I said, I'm not trying to put her in a ultimatum type thing. Just want to know what am I expecting or shouldn't expect. I know she said if you want to move on, that's fine. I understand like that, but I would. I mean, unless it's like, yeah, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna take care of her until she's gone. I'm like, well, okay. Good luck with that. You know, hope you know grandmother feels better, or I should say feel better. All right, but you know, what have you? I don't know how to word that. But anyway, and then at that point, I probably would move on if she said, yeah, probably gonna stay here until she's gone, and then I could go back in the dating world. And then if that happens, I'm like, well, you still have your grandfather, and that happens while that have like you're kind of screwed. But I'm not gonna say that. But you get the point. So at that point, if that happens, like, so what do I do? I mean, do I still go to Cebu and just walk the streets and just hit on every you know hopefully every single person out there? It's like, yay, you look cool. You want to hang out? You want to get your number, and then blah blah blah, and then go from there? Or do I just take a detour to Manila slash Angel City, and just make it a fun trip, or even take a further detour and just go to Bangkok and have like like I said, a fun trip. Just cut it shorter than what I planned for. Just instead of a week and a half, it'll be like a week. I mean, I probably won't stay there for a week, but just consider it takes quote unquote 2 days to get there for travel. Well, I mean, it's a day of travel, but you're losing a day, so it's 2 days. And then, what, 4 days there, uh, or 4 nights, depending on when I arrive. 4 nights there, come back, and then take a day. So that's a week, about a week, and then planning. plan on when the day I come back, a day off. So either come back on a Saturday, rest that Sunday, or come back that Wednesday and then, my Thursday day off and then go back to work on Friday. But, if that happens, you know, I, do I just wait, twiddle my thumbs for a couple months, or, like I said, it's either two options. If she says no, I don't see anything happening, or how, more like, you know, what was I gonna say? It's like, if it doesn't make sense, then I'll just say, okay, well, I'm just gonna move on. And then at that point, do I, wait until the group trip in May, save up and, go a group trip in May, or do I just, you know, take a fun trip to Angel City or Bangkok? I mean, if I go to Angel City, um, obviously you have all the stuff and everything like that. But if I go to Bangkok, I think they obviously offer more. I think it depends on, you know, your vices. Um, if you're into Filipinos, obviously you would go to the Philippines. Uh, you know, but find out. I'll do some research. I mean, I kind of already did some research. It's just depending on what your vices are. If you're just into Filipinos, obviously you go to Philippines. If you're into Thai, you go there. Plus, I don't think they have, what you want. Because if you go to, because I looked it up, they didn't really have, you know, massage parlors. I mean, they do, but I found this one place in Bangkok where it's a neuro massage place, and but they also do like kind of cosplay stuff depending on like that. It's like, oh wow, they actually have this place here, you know, but they don't have that in Philippines. They don't really have BJ bars there. They don't really have. You can't really get a soapy massage there. You can't get a normal massage there. Um, you know, like I said, they have more options in Bangkok than they do in the Philippines. I think so. So it's like I said, it depends on what you want. I think it might be cheaper in the Philippines than Bangkok, but I think it might balance out. Um, maybe not. Don't know. Like, but I mean, if you're like I said, I think it just boils down to what are you more into Filipinos or Thais, or do you just want more options? I mean, if you look for more options to do on what to do, then I would go to Bangkok. But I mean, if you're just boiling it down race wise, then take your pick. But yeah, that's just me. That's my opinion. We'll find out. So if you care, I'll probably keep you posted next week. What's happening, everything like that. But yeah, that's that. Thanks for listening. As always, until next time, see you later.